Rick Rick. So what do you say?
Come on, let's go.
Let's go. Go. Let's go live to Wings, etc. on SEMO ESPN.
Welcome in, Redhawks Coaches Show. We are live at Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau. And it's kind of a gloomy day outside, but everything is roses inside Wings, etc. That's because the owner, Joe Hobbs, walking around with his New England Patriots victory gear. He's got his pullover, and I don't know. Coach Rick Ray is here. What would you call that thing that he's wearing on his head right now, Coach?
Un-American.
It's some sort of a Patriot head with a Patriot hat, and it's got all the Patriot colors. It looks like some sort of transformer face there in the front, but it's definitely New England Patriots. Did you watch the Super Bowl? What'd you think?
Well, I tell you what, I know a lot of people probably end up going to bed at the end of the third quarter and not realizing that the game was not over with. You know, it really was kind of reminding me of the college football championship where the defense just absolutely got worn down by how many plays that they were out there. And I thought two things that kind of really stood out. You know, obviously them not running the ball there. I mean, like Julio Jones, who just makes unbelievable catches. How you just target him 4 times. I'm just throwing it up in the air to him at least 15 times and see what happens. But he gets 4 targets, makes 3 of the best catches I've ever seen in my life.
The one on the sideline was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and like Bill Belichick said that he had the red flag ready to challenge, and he looked at it and he said it wasn't even close. I mean, the way he was able to get his 2 feet in. So you have that play right there. And if you just take a knee – just take a knee 3 times and kick a field goal, it's over with. And so obviously you question the play calling, but then on top of that, you know, you got an MVP quarterback there with Matt Ryan. You just absolutely can't take a sack there.
Yeah.
I mean, a veteran quarterback, you can't take a sack there. And so you put yourself out of field goal range, and then you have the situation where there's a holding penalty. So you have that scenario. But to me, once you get into overtime, probably the biggest thing that ever happens there is just fate on like who gets the coin toss. Because right now Atlanta's defense is just gassed. I mean, if you can just like get them off the field by Atlanta getting the coin toss and being on offense for a little bit just to give those guys a blow, then you have a chance maybe to like hold them to a field goal. But you know, everybody talks about like, well, I don't understand why everybody says like the defense is gassed because they've been on the field that long, but the offense is not. Well, if you watch college football, you know, football in general, the offensive line, once they've done their job of blocking, they're done. Well, the defensive linemen, like once they try to rush the quarterback and they don't get the quarterback, they're taught to pursue.
Right.
So every play they're pursuing the quarterback, and if anything gets beyond them, they never give up on a play. And so they're really gassed. And so it's a big difference between what the defense does and what the offense does. But, you know, to me, it didn't matter what Tom Brady did, whether they won that game or lost the game. You can still look at his legacy and say he's the best quarterback of all time. To me, it wasn't dependent on whether he won the Super Bowl or lost the Super Bowl. But what he did there, and if you talk about the personnel that's always been around him, like he's made other guys great. So like he's had Randy Moss and he had Gronkowski. Those are the 2 guys that you could point to and say that, hey, they're superior talents on the offensive end and weapons. But if you had like Tom Brady had Julio Jones or something like that, it just wouldn't be fair. So it was a great game. I don't know if you could talk about it being a great game as far as like it being a great comeback and the first overtime Super Bowl ever. It was just really had a whole bunch of different elements that you can learn from.
Boy, anybody who thought that the game was totally over, you can understand that. But being a Division I coach and being around sports as long as you have, you probably didn't think the game was over. I mean, you just as coaches, you are always looking for ways that, hey, it's not over until the clock ticks to 0.
Yeah, and the other part of it to me that's always amazing is just watching Belichick's demeanor that whole time. I mean, there wasn't like a panic. There wasn't a frustration. He just kept a calm, cool demeanor. And part of that is the fact that you got Tom Brady. You can kind of be calm, cool, and collected during that time. But some of the things that they did, and obviously that sack by Courtney Upshaw, I mean, that was huge, that sack fumble. But to me, just all about the nuances of the game. And you listen to the Atlanta coaches after the game, the offensive coordinator and the head coach talking about this is who they are. They play aggressive. This is how they got to the Super Bowl. So it's interesting to see what they do and how they examine things and how they look at it in their perspective and how they handle, because those questions are coming. From about your offensive coordinator and a guy like Kyle Shanahan who's about to become a head coach with the 49ers, the worst kept secret in America. But it's interesting to see those guys' responses after the game about what their thinking was, what the game plan was, and how they handled that particular situation.
I know you hear a lot of times from coaches and organizations, we do what we do. We don't change things because this is our style. But boy, in certain scenarios, maybe you have to change your game plan up just a little bit, be a little versatile, and maybe run the football a little bit more. I think that's probably what the Atlanta coaching staff is kind of thinking today.
Yeah, and if you don't go back and look at that and do some self-evaluation and examine what you could have done different, then you're not earning your paycheck. So I think in a moment of honesty, I think if you ask those guys, and I understand they're trying to stick up for their team, and they got the terminology, the brotherhood. But if you ask those guys privately, they know that they should have just ran the ball, kick a field goal, you win the Super Bowl.
And, if you could put them on a polygraph. The funny thing is, oftentimes we see football teams criticized for playing not to lose. Like, you got a lead, so you're playing not to lose, and all of a sudden you change what you did to get the lead. And we talk about prevent defenses, changing what you did, playing not to lose. They get criticized for that. Then Shanahan, kind of keeps the throttle full bore there and tries to continue to be aggressive, and he gets criticism for that.
Yeah, and to me, like, the only thing I would say is if you're going to, like, put the pedal to the metal, then throw it to that freak Julio Jones. I mean, to me, like, if that's what you want to be aggressive and throw the ball and things like that, then throw the ball to Julio Jones. But, like, that 7-step drop, on that, it's just too much opportunity for something to go wrong there. But, I think you saw the greatest quarterback of all time play last night, and I thought you saw the best wide receiver in the NFL play last night. Those two guys, what they did, that performance, to me, it was really outstanding.
It was a fun game to watch. I'm glad I'm not a bettor. I didn't want to put any money on the game. It would have been, boy, I don't know. You would have been certainly pulling your hair out or nervous. I can't imagine being somebody that does that for a living and always looking at the point spread and what the final score is and expecting, things to go wrong at the end of the football game. But to watch a game like that following the national championship football game, Clemson was down 14-0. It's a 28-3 lead for the Atlanta Falcons. The Chicago Cubs were down 3-1 in the World Series. The Cleveland Cavaliers were down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. I mean, we've gotten some pretty dramatic professional championships in this country the last 6 months or so.
And here's the thing that's been said, and I don't know if it was Bill Parcells who said this, but he says more games are lost than won. And if you go back and you examine just like what's happened in this past year and franchise, this is not like college. This is not high school. We're talking about people who are getting paid to do what they do, and they have these sorts of collapses, in the professional ranks. It just goes to show you that quote really holds true, that more games are lost than won.
As a coach, do you look at that game last night and say, man, what a great job by the Patriots? Or as a coach, do you say, man, what an opportunity that the Falcons let slip away?
Well, I think in order for a comeback to happen, the losing team has to be a willing participant.
Okay.
And so I don't like to use the word choke because I don't think it's like a choke job. But what I will say is, like, there were some opportunities that the Patriots took advantage of that the Atlanta Falcons provided for them, because you don't have a comeback without the losing team being a willing participant at some point in time.
I think, you may have had a Joe Montana argument before the game started, never lost a Super Bowl, 4-0. I think Brady has over 20,000 more passing yards, over 200 more touchdown passes. I mean, total numbers. and then his 4 Super Bowls. But now with a 5th Super Bowl, I was a big Joe Montana fan. I don't know that you have a Joe Montana argument anymore.
Well, I will say this too. And I'm gonna say something here that most people will not agree with, but that's fine. I'm gonna say it anyway. But Joe Montana did have Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can say that Jerry Rice made 2 of the best quarterbacks of all time, Steve Young and Joe Montana. And then on top of that, Joe Montana had some other weapons around him. Dwight Clark. He had what was the fullback? Roger Craig. He had some other talent around him. But for me, for the most talented quarterback that I've ever seen play football is not even close as Dan Marino. I mean, if Dan Marino played in this day and age where you can't touch the receiver and you can't touch the quarterback, what he did back in '84, putting up 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns and things like that. If you translate that's this day and time, I mean, he would rewrite all the record books. So to me, like the most talented quarterback I've ever seen is Dan Marino. Now, I will say that Tom Brady's the best quarterback because he's won the Super Bowls and things like that. But the talent that Dan Marino possessed and what he did in that day and age where you could just tackle wide receivers and you could just hit quarterbacks in the head and things like that, and what you can do now where you can't touch wide receivers and you can't touch the quarterback, he would throw for 6,000 yards.
And you look at the era that Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana played in, free agency wasn't as prominent. So you kept that core group of guys together. I mean, that Pittsburgh Steeler team, the Steel Curtain and all the weapons on offense, Swan, Stallworth, Franco Harris, Rocky Bleier, Bradshaw, all those guys stayed together for 4 Super Bowls. Nowadays, it doesn't work like that. Guys are going places because they're going to get paid more money with free agency. That's another thing that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick deal with that Chuck Noll, Terry Bradshaw, Bill Walsh, Joe Montana didn't deal with.
Yeah, and the amazing thing to me is about how you make Super Bowl rings work and NBA championships work to your favor and then discount them all the same. So when everybody starts talking about the greatest quarterbacks of all time, they say, well, Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. And so when you say, well, Terry Bradshaw was one of the best quarterbacks of all time. No. He had Steel Curtain and he had Lance Swan and things like that. So it always, it's funny to me how they always end up doing that, because they talk about like championships. They say like, well, maybe Charles Barkley is not one of the best players of all time because he never won a championship. Karl Malone, John Stockton. And so he said, well, he's still one of the greatest players of all time. Well, he never won a championship. So in your argument, then Will Perdue is a better player than Karl Malone because he won championships. So, you can always use those championships to argue for or argue against.
Craig Hodges was better than John Stockton.
Yeah.
All right. It's the Coaches Show. We're at the Cape Girardeau Wings, etc. And just a heads up, next week we'll be in the Jackson location. So make plans to join us on Mondays. Their award-winning jumbo wings are just 59 cents. So keep that in mind. And it's not just the award-winning wings on the menu. They have their freshly made burgers, their subs, their wraps, quesadillas, entree salads. I just ordered the big chicken salad. They have smoked ribs. Their appetizer lineup includes their ultimate nachos and the deep fried pickle spears, wings, etc. And they just had the big viewing party yesterday for the Super Bowl. I know they gave away a bunch of prizes, including recliners, and apparently everything went great. I knew that Joe Hobbs would be here, decked out in Patriots gear. Had they not come back, I wonder if Hobbs is here today. What do you think?
There's no question that you wouldn't see him. I mean, Hobbs would not make an appearance, not just today, but I would imagine for a couple of days. But he would have bounced back somehow. But obviously he's a proud fan, and he's letting it be shown tonight.
All right. So congratulations to the New England Patriots winning the Super Bowl. Let's talk about your basketball team. You were starting the week up at the top of the West Division standings. You go to Jacksonville State, drop the game there. Then it's a very tight back-and-forth battle here with Morehead State, and the Eagles win 89-81. Let's just quickly recap the Jacksonville State game. At the end of the game, that's about as unhappy as I think I've probably seen you this year. You didn't really have a whole lot of things to find out of that game that were really encouraging for you.
Yeah, I thought our approach to the game and really our approach toward that game was not up to our standards. We're not a team that's just going to out-talent you. We're a team that's got to play together. We got a team that's got to have a focus. We're a team that's got to like have a plan and then go out and execute that plan. And I thought in our practice preparation that we weren't practicing the way in order to compete against Jacksonville State. And I thought once we went out there and played, that we didn't have the right mindset. I thought that our guys were more concerned about like the standings and where we were at and what we've accomplished rather than the process of getting prepared to play a game. And I just, you can lose games, and I understand everybody, we're going to lose games. But to me, like, you can't lose games where you get out competed, like you get out tough. That's what bothers me more than anything. That, you know, I always say to our guys every time we walk out on the court, when someone gets done watching our game, I just want them to say three things. Our team played harder than them, they played tougher than them, and they played smarter than them. And if you can say those three things about our team, even if it's a win or a loss, then I'm all right with that. But if we don't do those three things, then I got a huge problem with that. And I just thought that we didn't play harder than them, which we normally do. I think we play pretty hard. We definitely did play tougher than them because they just physically manhandled us around the paint area, whether it was trying to get into the paint on drives, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, screens, fighting through screens, toughness plays. I just didn't think we did that at all. And I didn't think we played smarter than them because I thought we should have shared the ball a little bit better. So I was really disappointed in just our approach toward that game and then obviously how we played in that game.
And foul trouble was a big deal in the Jacksonville State game, especially Antonius Cleveland and Trey Kellum. You'd have liked to see them on the floor a little longer.
Yeah, but they put themselves in that position by not doing the things necessary in order not to be in foul trouble. To me, a lot of times when you foul, you're fouling because you're behind the play, whether because you didn't jump to the basketball, you didn't fight through a screen. There was something that led to you doing something that puts you in a position to foul. And so I thought on most of our fouls, I thought we were just behind the play and late plays because we weren't doing the things that we're capable of doing, like jumping to the ball.
One of the guys that I thought played well for you in the Jacksonville game was Jamal Calvin, coach. 11 points, 5 boards, 3 assists against Jacksonville State. He's been a steady guy. Early in the season, you had talked about, boy, he'll have a double-digit game, and then he'll have a 2-point game, and then, maybe he'll score 9, then it's 3. Looks like he's starting to develop a little more consistency.
Yeah, I thought when he first came back from that concussion, he still had the cobwebs that was still knocked out of him a little bit, and he just wasn't quite right. But then he had the tendon situation with his foot. And so, like, now that knocked him out a little bit more. But now I think he's starting to turn the corner again and get back to it. Because I thought there was not a lot of guys who went out there and had the flavor for competition in that particular game. I thought Jonathan Dalton in that game really played well. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but I thought he made a lot of little plays, and I thought he just competed for us. I thought Milos did a great job of competing for us. And then once Denzel figured it out, I thought he figured some things out and competed well for us in the second half of that game.
He finished with 18 points in the game. Denzel Mahoney, 3 rebounds. He had a steal against Jacksonville State, but there weren't a whole lot of highlights in that game. Then it's the Morehead State game, 89-81. Anybody that bought a ticket wanted to see offense, they certainly saw a lot of offense. You finished the game shooting 55% at home, a game that you hit 9 3-pointers, but it was Morehead State's shooting percentage that was really eye-popping, especially in the second half. 69% for the Eagles in the second half. Tough to win games when the opponent shoots 69%.
Yeah, and we told our team before the game, they're the second leading scoring team in OVC. Belmont is at 80.5 points per game, but Morehead State was right behind them at 80.2 points per game. So they're a high-scoring team. I thought they had 2 guards in Moon and Descent that are really excellent players, especially Moon. I thought Moon is a little different than Jonathan Stark and Josh Robinson with Austin P. Jonathan Stark is over at Murray State. Well, those guys are really explosive scorers, but they don't possess the quickness and how fast that Moon is. To me, Moon is more like an Allen Iverson type guy that you just can't contain and keep in front. So I thought it was really important that we try to contain him and get the ball out of his hands. And we did that in the first half. Now it was to the detriment of us being in foul trouble, but we wanted those 3 other guys on the team to beat us. And they shot a good percentage in the first half. but it wasn't 69%
No.
that they shot in the second half. And I thought I made a coaching mistake by going away. We went a junk defense, a triangle and two, where we tried to keep the ball out of their two really good players' hands, and then we just guard those other guys 3-on-3. And if they beat us 3-on-3 with those guys, we don't deserve to win the game. We got to be able to guard those three guys, and we got in foul trouble in the first half doing that. But those two guys combined in the first half only had 5 points. And so we went away from that in the second half. And what I was fearful of from the very beginning, we was going through the game prep, that we couldn't guard Moon and we couldn't guard Descent. And that's what ended up costing us a game. And in hindsight, I went back and looked at it on tape. We should have stayed with our game plan and let those other three guys beat us. And if they beat us, they beat us. And we just kind of, they're more talented than we are. They have better personnel than we are. And I know our guys didn't like hearing that after the game, but truth was told, we couldn't guard them. So we had some guys that did some outstanding things on the offensive end, but at the end of the day, we couldn't guard them one-on-one, and that was why we lost the game.
Miguel Descent, at one stretch, it was almost a 5-minute stretch. He scored 14 consecutive points. He hadn't scored a point in the entire game, and in the second half, you had the lead, I believe a 4-point lead. He scored 14 points in a row, and that swung everything toward Morehead State, that one player.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's where I'm kicking myself as a coach, because we had Taj on him in that matchup, and Taj got lost in some of the screening action that they do. And, I thought Taj fought through on some of the plays, but he's such a talented player that he ended up still scoring. And what we should have done is just get the ball out of Moon's hands so they couldn't run those set plays, because, Taj was playing so well for us on the offensive end that we needed him in the game. But we just needed to find a way to get stops. And when we couldn't stop them individually, it's my job as a coach to find a way to get them stopped by scheming something. And I didn't do a good job of going back to what we did in the first half.
It's interesting where they got a couple of those players, Xavier Moon and his teammate Trashad Williams, a low post guy for them. Got them both from Northwest Florida State College. They were coming off the JUCO National Championship, just won a national title, and both of those guys went to Morehead State. Proven winners, and, man, they're helping Morehead State win games.
Yeah, the amazing thing about that is if you look at Xavier Moon's stats in junior college, he averaged 7 points a game.
Yeah.
Came off the bench, and I can't imagine, what Williams did in junior college. I didn't look at his stats, but I can't imagine he averaged hardly any points per game or was a huge contributor. But I tell you what, the thing that stands out to me to Williams is guys like that win you ball games, and it's really simple. They've accepted who they are. They understand their lot in life, and they understand their role. Williams is not going to shoot the ball. I mean, he's going to rebound, he's going to defend, and he's going to finish. And if he gets the ball at 15 feet, he's not even looking at the rim. He's going to pass the ball and go dive or go ball screen, because he knows where his bread is buttered, and he's accepted that, and he's really, really good at it. And see, it's once he accepted that, he became a really good player for them. And so to me, they've done a really good job of figuring out who they are and how to execute those particular roles.
Trashad Williams, 12.7 rebounds in the game, a guy that came in shooting 72% from the field. Now, he didn't have enough attempts to qualify, but that 72% number would have been third best in the country if he had enough field goal attempts. That's how well that guy's finishing around the basket.
And that's why he's shooting 72% from the field, because he doesn't take any bad shots. So if he took enough shots to qualify, he probably wouldn't have that higher percentage, because he's not an offensive player. But that 72%, I guarantee you they're all layups and dunks.
And the guy that really had an exciting relationship with the fans at the Show Me Center was DeJuan Marrero. He was talking to his teammates. He was talking to your team. He was talking to your bench. He was talking to the fans in the front row. He was doing a lot of talking, but he was backing it up a lot. A career high 24 points in the game for DeJuan Marrero. It was his 19th career double-double in his 2-year career. And you have a relationship with Marrero that goes back a long way. You know all about this guy.
Yeah, I tell you what, and his name is Rico. It's DeJuan Marrero, but he goes by Rico. And it's funny, when I was at Purdue, we were recruiting Rico, and he was like in the 7th and 8th grade. That's at that high major level. You start trying to establish relationships. So he's from the region, what we call the region. So East Chicago, Gary area, in Indiana. And so I remember he looked about the same that he looks now and he did in the 8th grade. I mean, his body hasn't changed very much. So he was a man amongst boys at that. And you knew he was like development wise that he probably wouldn't end up being a high major guy. When you're back in middle school, there's always somebody in your class that like was bigger and stronger than everybody else. And then in the 11th grade or 12th grade, he's still the same size. He hadn't
Right.
got bigger and stronger, but he was really good in middle school because of the fact that he was bigger and stronger than everybody else, and you just hadn't developed yet. Well, that's where Rico was when he was in the 8th grade and 7th grade and things like that. So I've known Rico for a long time and kept in contact with him. His high school coach, his AAU coach, they're friends of mine. So I know I've had a relationship with him for a long time. But the scouting report on Marrero is real simple. He's going to go right really, really hard. And so you've either got to be strong enough to stop him from going right, or he's going to go right and you're going to draw fouls or score. And so what we didn't do is we didn't make him go left. He had more of a will to go right than we had a will to make him go left.
DeJuan Marrero, who won a state championship at Bowman Academy, then as a freshman played at DePaul. So he was a Blue Demon. It didn't work out there. He went to junior college down in Florida at Chipola, and now at Morehead State. So he's bounced around a lot, but has made a real home for himself in the OVC. But the one thing you and I talked about after the game, that is the type of post player that can have success in the OVC. He's 6'6", 230, but man, he's tough to stop. He's not 6'8", 250. You talk about these really big, huge post players, 6'6", 230, and he's one of the better post players in the league, right?
Yeah, and I think you better make sure you have good players. Like, to me, I mean, you get wrapped up in size and height and things like that. Now, we would all love to have a guy that's 6'9" like DeJuan Marrero, but you got to be able to get them. Guys that are 6'9" like DeJuan Marrero, they're playing at Kansas State, they're playing at Mizzou, they're playing at places like that. So you better make sure you go out and find somebody that's effective. So I'd much rather have, and he's not 6'6". I'd much rather have a 6'5" DeJuan Marrero or a 6'5" Denzel Mahoney, and a guy that can actually play, than worry about going and have a 6'9" guy that looks good on your bench. So to me, their front line with Williams, who was 6'6", and Marrero, who's 6'5", I mean, they're scoring a lot of points because they're effective ball players for them.
And the guys who had I thought, the biggest effect in drawing fouls on you, Ronnie Beeman and DeJuan Marrero. I mean, they were just barreling their way inside, daring and initiating contact, and just, what's the official going to call?
Yeah, and to me, that's where like college basketball has evolved to. It used to be that you could just throw your chest into their shoulder and ride them as long as you were square. It's not a foul. But now, if you're in contact with the person and you're square and you're in good position and there's that contact, especially a grinding contact, it's an automatic foul. So you've got to be able to find a way to like be strong enough to go get in front of that guy and make him turn or spin or do something where he changes direction. And we talk about that all the time. There's not very many guys. You go out and you watch all these guys do all these ball handling drills with these cones and things like that, and it's quite amusing, because that's not what basketball is. I mean, you can sit out there and you watch these guys with basketball skill workout guys, and they'll have a guy go behind his back between his legs 3-4 times and then make a move. That's not happening in college basketball. And all it is like guys are not good enough to make change of direction dribble versus pressure. And I always say it's like, if you make a guy change direction and not go one way, you've done your job, because we're coming help side, and most people can't make a change of direction dribble versus pressure. Now, good ones can. Moon can. Taj can. But like most guys, if you try to get them to make it, Guerrero, like he can't. If you he's a really good player, but he can't change directions handling the basketball. So you've got to be able to make them do that. And like Beeman, I don't think he can either, but we weren't good enough and strong enough to make him change direction.
One of the things I know that you highlighted after the game, too, you thought maybe some of your guys were trying to do too much individually, a little bit of outside of the team concept on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I think that's going to happen in almost every walk of life. When you're playing a team that's a high-scoring team, you try to outscore them instead of stop them. And for us, to score 81 points and not win, that's not good. I mean, we scored well enough on the offensive end, even with some of our mishaps that we had. I just thought that we pounded the ball a little bit too much and didn't move the ball. And we showed our guys this morning in practice how many shots we took with 25 seconds on the shot clock, 22 seconds on the shot clock. And then more importantly, we were talking about guys dribbling the ball too much. But some of our guys were the result of dribbling too much because guys weren't fighting for catches to get open. And so we can get on the guy about dribbling too much and not moving the basketball, but he's also got to have somebody to throw it to. And I didn't think we call them fighting for catches, fighting so the ball can move, and we didn't fight for enough catches. So it was twofold.
Redhawks freshman point guard Taj Edey scored a career high in the game against Morehead State. We'll talk more about that. And the Redhawks are on the road on Thursday. They're traveling to SIU Edwardsville. We'll talk a little bit about the Cougars, who the Redhawks have already seen. And the last time they saw them, they scored 11 points in the final 27 seconds of the game at the Show Me Center. So we've got much more with Coach Rick Ray. We are at Wings, Etc. in Cape Girardeau, where 59-cent wings are the order of the day, and that happens every Monday. They've got drink specials along with the 59-cent wings. We'll take a timeout. More with Coach Rick Ray from Wings after this on SEMO ESPN.
Has been growing about Wings, Etc. See, Wings, Etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now, the word is getting out about Wings, Etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings, Etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings, Etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings, Etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings, Etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings, Etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings, Etc. is a really big deal around here.
Hear the Southeast Redhawks men's and women's basketball teams all season long on SEMO ESPN and Real Rock 99.3. Stream live at SEMOESPN.com and download the SEMO ESPN app to listen. Southeast basketball brought to you by Moreland Pre-Owned Center on Seamers Drive in Cape. Southeast Health. When cost and quality matters, choose Southeast Health. Cape Girardeau Nature Center in Cape County Park North. And Code Chevrolet, 517 South Kings Highway in Cape Girardeau.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
Circling Monday night as we could see some rough weather move through. Now we will finish out the weekend with the clouds building in, some showers developing. We'll fall back to 38. Showers early for Monday, scattered thunderstorms later in the day with a high 61 degrees. Thunderstorms for our Monday night, scattered later on. Some of the storms could be severe. Showers and storms early Tuesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm Edie Rollins.
With the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network.
This is Mike Golick for the best in local sports talk and play-by-play. It's SEMO ESPN.
I hope you're enjoying your lunch hour and your Monday, the day after the Super Bowl. Atlanta Falcons fans are probably still a little upset about what transpired in the Super Bowl, but it was a fun game. I hope you had a great time. I know they did at both Wings locations for their big game viewing party yesterday, and they gave away some outstanding prizes. So congratulations on a terrifically run event by Wings, Etc. And we invite you to join us. If you want to join us for lunch, make sure you check out their daily half-pound lunch specials. Their lunch specials start at just $6.49. They've got food and drink specials throughout the week, and that includes their 59-cent wings on Mondays. And, of course, they've got the high-def TVs to the best sporting events here at Wings, Etc., and that includes Blues hockey tonight. They will be on the road in Philadelphia. Their first game without Robbie Fabry, who tore an ACL. He will be out for the season. But you can watch the Blues and the Philadelphia Flyers here tonight. It is a 6 o'clock face-off. Parents, don't forget they've got a kids-friendly menu here at Wings. and they are open 7 days a week and late on the weekends because the games run late. Wings, etc., hosting the Coaches Show, and we'll be back over in the Jackson location next week. So we invite you to join us there. The Redhawks getting set to embark on another road trip. Man, it seems like you just got off the road, back on the road, but the good news is you wrap up the season at home, but you're going to SIU Edwardsville on Thursday, and then you'll go to Eastern Illinois on Saturday. This is a team in SIU Edwardsville. I don't know, maybe some coaches get nervous when they play a team that's looking for their first win. They're in a bad streak right now. They are 0-11 in OVC play, and I know that's the last thing that you even want to talk about or even want your kids to talk about. Hey, this is an 0-11 team. You don't even want to bring up the fact that they're 0-11. You don't want to take away any motivation factor, I would guess, for your kids.
Yeah, and here's the hard part, though. All of our guys know they're 0-11. I mean, with the advent of social media and the access to the internet and things like that, it used to be back in the day that you could not talk about those things and guys wouldn't be aware of it. But in this day and age, I mean, everybody knows. But to me, if you're worried about them being 0-11 or them getting their first victory, then once again, you're worried about the wrong things. For our guys, it's about fixing what's wrong with us internally. Because, like, if we don't defend at a higher level and if we don't share the ball and make people guard us, then I don't care who we're playing, we're more than capable of losing. So we'll game plan and we'll look at some things that SIUE did. To me, the best thing about these second games is, like, you're able to go back and look at that film and show your guys evidence of what worked and what didn't work, and it's them. You know, a lot of times when you're showing guys tape against Tennessee Tech, against Eastern Illinois, or Morehead State against Eastern Kentucky, like, guys don't see, well, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to make that mistake, or he won't do that to me. And then you show them now the physical evidence is there on tape that, like, hey, he beat you on this play, or like, you should have passed the ball here. You didn't jump to the ball here. And it's them. Now they're more locked into the film. And to me, that always helps.
For those who don't remember, you played at the Show Me Center January 19th. You won the game 79-76. The score's misleading. You were up double figures comfortably. You were up late. 14 points was your lead with 27 seconds left, and you won by 3. Amazingly, they scored 11 points in the final 27 seconds, but you held on to win the game. That was the game that Antonius Cleveland scored only 6 points. That broke his streak dating back to 10 games in the last season of double-digit scoring efforts. He played only 16 minutes because of foul trouble, and that was, I thought, kind of a corner-turning win for your guys because you showed that, hey, even if Antonius Cleveland, your guy, does not have a big game, you can still win a basketball game.
And then on top of that, I believe that's that stretch that Jamal Calvin didn't play for us. Yeah, so you're talking about we only got 3 guys that have any sort of experience of playing Division I college basketball. And so you talk about Jamal Calvin being one of those guys that didn't play at all, especially at the point guard spot where experience is really, really key. And then you look at Antonius Cleveland, who only played 16 minutes, and you're still able to get that win. To me, it just showed, like, some of our maturity, some of the guys on our team growing up.
And it was, I know it got hairy there late, but it was a fairly comfortable win. I mean, you were in charge in that game.
Well, in the second half, we got comfortable. In the first half, I mean, they were winning for most of the first half. And then, like, that last 8 minutes, we started to, like, play basketball and do some of the things that we're capable of doing. But in the second half, you know, we started to figure some things out. You know, it's always like is it harder to, like, go in the conference undefeated? Is it harder to go in the conference without winning the game? You have that, you know, old deal there. So I just think that they're a dangerous team because they get to the free throw line so much. They're physically imposing team. They have some bigs that can really affect you at the rim, and they got some guys that can score the ball too.
And you talk about being able to get to the free throw line. Now, the first time you played them, they were leading the nation in free throw attempts. They go into this game second in the nation in free throw attempts. I mean, this is a team that absolutely lives at the free throw line. And in the first meeting, between you and SIUE. You limited them to 24 free throw attempts, and you had 36. So you made more free throws than they attempted, and I know that's one of the things that you highlight for your team each and every game.
Yeah, and for us to do that against a team, like you said, that's leading the nation in free throw attempts, and now they're just second in the nation in free throw attempts, that's huge. And we've got to find a way to play because we have a lack of depth. And if we want to make sure we win these games, we've got to figure out a way to not foul them and get them to the free throw line. But you can't not foul them and not play defense. You got to defend and be able to find a way to defend without fouling.
Well, their top player is a guy that transferred from Kansas State. He's actually the nephew of John Harris, the head coach. His name is Trey Harris. He spent one season at Kansas State for Bruce Weber. It didn't work out at Kansas State, so he, who is from Edwardsville, transferred to SIUE after sitting out last year. He's not going to play. He had a monster game against you, 25 points in the first meeting, and this is the statement from SIUE. Coach Harris announced Trey Harris is leaving the team for a leave of absence. It will continue through the remainder of the season. The program and the athletics department will continue to help Trey as he addresses personal issues. There will not be any further comment on Harris's status. So that's bad news for them. He was clearly their best player.
Yeah, and it's bad news for John. John is a personal friend of mine. I've gotten to know him really well. He was at with Conzo Martin I was about to say Southwest Missouri State, but now it's Missouri State. So he was with Conzo Martin at Missouri State. He was with him at Tennessee. He was with him at Cal. Me and Conzo Martin obviously worked together at Purdue, so we have a close personal relationship. The assistant coach there, Kent Williams, we worked together at Purdue. The assistant coach there, Terrence Crump, he played for us at Purdue. So I've got a lot of close personal relationships with the coaching staff there, and you never want to see anybody have to go through anything like this. And hopefully this time away from basketball, whatever issues that Trey is having, that this helps him work through those issues, because you want to see those guys do well. You want to see them be successful, except when they're playing us.
And he's a heck of a player, man. I mean, he was top 20 in scoring in the league and a good three-point shooter. Really, he can do about everything well. I mean, he's a Big 12 guy at a scholarship at Kansas State. I mean, he's a good player.
Yeah, and he was a guy that they wanted to be the cornerstone of their program. Anytime you have young talent in your program, you get excited about that young talent, because now you know they're going to be with you for 3 years, for 4 years, and you can start to build around that young talent. And he's just a redshirt sophomore, and so you're talking about a guy that's going to be in your program for 3 years. Now you have a chance to build with them, and that's the way we feel about the young guys in our program, that we'll have an opportunity to build a foundation around them, because you know they're going to be in your program for those. Meaning it's really good if you're young, okay, and you have talent. But it's really bad if you're young and those guys aren't talented, because now they're with you for those 3 or 4 years. And we feel like with that freshman class that we have, that those guys will be in our program for a while, and we'll be able to build around them and hopefully get better each year.
It has not been an issue defensively for SIU Edwardsville. They're a pretty good defensive team at times. When it comes to at least locking the three-point arc down. That's the one thing that they've excelled at, defending the three-point shot. It has been offense that has been a struggle for SIUE, and now they lose their leading scorer in Trey Harris. They are next to last in the league in scoring, next to last or dead last in field goal percentage, dead last in three-point percentage. So offensive production is a game-in, game-out challenge for the Cougars.
Yeah, they're a team that relies on their physicality and their strength. And if you're able to hold them to one opportunity by getting a defensive rebound, they're a very good offensive rebounding team. So the keys to them is, first of all, not fouling them, and second of all, rebounding the ball. And so if you can hold them to one shot and not foul them in that one shot, and then get the defensive rebound, then you have a chance to be successful against them.
Well, their main guy now that Trey Harris is not there is Barack Eslick. He just scored 21 points against Jacksonville State. He had a 40-point game last year, Coach, against Morehead State. You guys did a phenomenal job against Eslick the first time you played him. He missed all 3 of his three-point shots. He's a good three-point shooter. You held him to single digits, 2 of 8 shooting. What did you do that was so effective against a good scorer in Barack Eslick?
Well, the first thing that we did was we kept the ball out of his hands. I thought our wing players did a good job of limiting his catches. To me, when you're playing a talented player, the best thing that you can do is not have him with the ball. If he gets his hands on the ball, then he becomes difficult to guard. So I thought our guys did a good job of limiting his touches. The second thing we did was once he got the ball, he's an excellent driver. So I know he's a guy that can make shots, but he wants to drive it first. And he's kind of got that Manu Ginobili, he drives the ball, he goes off of 1 foot, and it's either going to be a travel or turnover or foul on you because he's trying to squeeze through certain areas right there. So we did a great job. We talked about 31 of surrounding him and building the wall. But the other thing that I thought helped too was, talking to the referees. I thought we got a couple questionable fouls there towards the end while we were guarding him. And I just told the referee, I said, hey, we've been really good defensively against him. I said, like, those first 2 steps, like, we're really good at guarding him. That third step, like, we can't guard him on that third step. So, like, help our defense out by continuing to be good by not allowing that third step.
And again, this is a team that has shot the second most free throws in the nation. And Eslick has been to the line 140 times. He's 81%. He goes to the line. He makes them.
Oh, yeah, that's the other part about it. I mean, sometimes guys get to the free throw line and it's, you don't want to foul them. You don't want them to get there. But when they get there, I mean, they have a hard time of making them. But with him, when he gets to the free throw line, which is really quite frequently, he gets there and he knocks them down.
The one guy that you had a hard time containing is a guy named Brandon Jackson. He's only had 1 double-figure scoring game, and it came against you. 12 points, 8 rebounds. That's his best game. He's a freshman from Cardinal Ritter. And Jess and I were talking about him during the broadcast. 6'7", 205, really athletic. He gave you some problems.
Yeah, and I think the key stat you talked about there with those 12 points is the 8 rebounds. If I think you go back and you look at that, he scored off those opportunities when he got offensive rebounds and was able to put them back. And then we had some breakdowns defensively in our 1-3-1 defense that left him open at the rim. So we've got to make sure we cover up those mistakes, but more importantly, keep him off the glass.
You talk about it is a great teaching tool for you when you play a team for the second time because you can show your guys them against the competition rather than another team against the squad that you're playing. Well, it's an opportunity for SIU Edwardsville to do the same thing. So adjustments will be made, I'm sure, on both sides. What adjustments do you anticipate seeing from them? Because they're already in adjustment mode playing without Trey Harris.
Yeah, I think the first thing they'll do is try to figure out what they're going to do ball screen defense-wise. To me, Denzel Mahoney is constantly the problem that you have to figure out if you're the opposing coach. Are you going to switch the ball screen action with him? And now you're putting maybe a 4-man who possibly can't guard like an Antonius Cleveland or a Taj or somebody like that off the bounce with on one of our perimeter guys? Or do you stay with the ball screen action? Now all of a sudden you've got your 4-man closing out to Denzel Mahoney in space. And obviously he's really good in that space when you close out to him because he can shoot the ball and he's big and strong enough to drive it around you as well. So to me, that's the number one thing that we're going to have to figure out and watch what are they doing with their ball screen defense with Denzel Mahoney. The second thing is what are they doing on their ball screen defense with Trey? Because a lot of times some people like hard hedge, and when you hard hedge, you've got to be a good enough ball handler to handle the pressure of that hard hedge and still throw the ball behind you. And when you throw the ball behind you, it's really simple. There's always somebody who's helping on the dive. And so if that guy doesn't do a good job of helping on the dive, you got to be a good enough passer to pass the ball to Trey Kellum on the dive. And if it's not, then you got to be able to throw the ball to the person who chipped on the dive behind you to the guard so he can either catch it and make a play or throw the ball in the post to Trey Kellum. So those are the two things that we'll watch and see how they're defending us on the ball screen action so we can make adjustments offensively right there then in the game. And for us, there's some real simple adjustments. We'll talk to our guys at the first time out and say, okay, hey, they're switching the ball screen with Denzel. We'll start slipping that ball screen so we can drive the ball with our perimeter guys. or they're quick hedging, and so we need to attack the hedge. So there's some things that we've done there. And I think what's really helped us offensively this year is our offense is really simple, and the adjustments that we need to make in our offense are simple, so it doesn't complicate our guys, so they can go out there and play with confidence.
And they had trouble with Mahoney. 20 points, 6 of 11 shooting. He hit 3 threes, went 5 of 6 from the line. He scored in every way. They fouled him. He went to the line, hit his free throws. He was hitting from 3, and he was taking the ball to the basket. They didn't really have any answers for him.
And in fairness to SIUE, a lot of people have had problems with Denzel Mahoney because he's a good player and because he's playing that undersized 4 spot. It puts you in the bind of trying to figure out what to do with him.
And without Jamal Calvin in the first meeting, Taj Edey kind of took a step forward in the game. He finished with 13 points, hit all 6 of his free throws. So they did get to see a little bit of Taj Edey, and they had some problems with him.
Yeah, and Taj, you can see, well, he hit some big-time shots in that game against Morehead State. I thought the one shot that he hit was going to bring down rain. It stayed in the air
He
so
puts
long.
He puts a lot of arc on his shot.
Yeah. So sometimes you don't know, like, is that coming down into the hoop? Is it going to be an air ball? Is he missing it? But I'm telling you what, he's a guy that plays with extreme amount of confidence. He knows he can make shots. Pressure doesn't bother him. He can really handle the basketball. So the maturation of him as a player has really helped our team. And I'm excited about what his future holds, because once he gets bigger and stronger, which is going to be the key thing that we talk to him about in the upcoming offseason. And what you'll see in college basketball, the biggest strides and jumps that people make as a college basketball player is usually after their first year of playing college basketball, whether it be a junior college guy going into his senior season or a freshman going into his sophomore season. So, in order for him to be the player that we think he can be, he's got to have a tremendous offseason for us.
And you talk about, you highlight his defense and times. Does it strictly come down to physical strength with him on the defensive end? Because clearly he has the athletic tools to be able to move and get to where he needs to get defensively, right?
Yeah, and it's not just that, though. It's two things. It's like having the physicality to contend with some of the things that he struggles with, and that's not going to happen this season. But for me, then, it's also like, okay, you don't have that physicality. Now you got to find a way to still be a good defender without that physicality. And that's where that will to achieve, that will to succeed has got to kick in. And so for him, it's like, hey, you can't guard descent because you're going through screens or things like that. Hey, you've got to figure it out. I'm not going to get you 20 pounds in this game right now. It's not happening. So if you want to, you got to have the will to figure it out. And those are the two things that he'll improve on. And I got every confidence that he'll do that.
And, they've got a shot blocker that protects the rim. Keenan Simmons, 3rd in the league in block shots. He's a 6'6" guy that has a knack for being able to block shots. So they do have a guy that does protect the rim for the Cougars.
Yeah, and if you look at tape on him, most of his blocks are coming from weak side defense. There's 2 ways guys block shots, and most guys can't block shots on the person that they're guarding. That's kind of rare. Those are the guys that are elite shot blockers. But most of the time, shot blockers come from the weak side off of somebody else. And so that's where he's really good. He's good at anticipating and seeing drives and then coming in and protecting the rim from the weak side.
They also have a guy, and I'm guessing because Trey Harris is not there, so they've gone a little bit deeper into their bench. But Glenn Pierre played a few more minutes for them. He transferred from College of Charleston. He's 6'11", 230. He didn't play against you the first time, but he played 11 minutes against Jacksonville, 2 points, 3 rebounds. He played in 41 games in 2 years at College of Charleston and led them in block shots his final year there. What do you see from him at 6'11"?
Well, he played at College of Charleston, and one of my best friends, the head coach there at College of Charleston, we worked together at Clemson for Brad Brownell. And so he knows about him. He told me about him transferring to SIUE and the potential that he has. And the thing that kind of struck me was in the handshake line after the game, and you're going through shaking hands with the players, and he walks up on you. He is 6'11". Yeah. That is not, some people put 6'11" and they're really 6'9" or 6'10". He's 6'11", and he's a huge guy, and I've got a chance to watch him on tape. The thing that comes across with him is that you've got to be really good on your weak side defense and pressuring the basketball, because You front him, it doesn't mean anything. They can still throw the ball over your head. And if you play behind him, he's so big that he's able to get off a jump hook without you being able to contest it.
And he had a double-digit scoring game December 19th against Green Bay, scored 11 points, so certainly capable. And he's a good free throw shooter, 72% at College of Charleston. He's 6 for 7 as a Cougar. All right, one final segment here with Coach Rick Ray. We'll get his keys to the game and just a little bit about the Eastern Illinois Panthers, who the Redhawks will then turn around and play on Saturday. Final segment coming up with Coach Rick Ray. It's the Coaches Show from Wings, Etc. on SEMO ESPN.
Been growing about Wings, Etc. See, Wings, Etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now, the word is getting out about Wings, Etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings, Etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings, Etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings, Etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings, Etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings, Etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings, Etc. is a really big deal around here.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
Circling Monday night as we could see some rough weather move through. Now we will finish out the weekend with the clouds building in, some showers developing. We'll fall back to 38. Showers early for Monday, scattered thunderstorms later in the day with a high 61 degrees. Thunderstorms for our Monday night, scattered later on. Some of the storms could be severe. Showers and storms early Tuesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm Edie Robert.
With the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network.
Well, dude, obviously be better as the focal point of the show. Would I be better for society? No.
Don't miss Russillo and Cannell every weekday at noon on SEMO ESPN.
Final segment with Coach Rick Ray here from the Coaches Show at Wings, Etc. in Cape Girardeau. Redhawks will be playing at SIU Edwardsville on Thursday. So it's SIU Edwardsville Thursday and then Eastern Illinois on Saturday. Two teams that you have already beaten, Coach. But I know as a head coach, you don't want your players thinking about any of that stuff because as it stands now, and it's our job to look at the standings, you're one game behind UT Martin for the top spot in the OVC West. They still have to come to your place. Murray State's a half game in front of you. They have to come to the Show Me Center. So for those games to mean anything in the standings, you got to win these next two.
Yeah, and what we always talk about is getting prepared for the game that's ahead of you, because the game that's going to happen 2 weeks from now, a week from now, even 2 games from now won't mean anything if you didn't take care of your business in this time. So we didn't do that against Morehead State. We didn't do it against Jacksonville State. If you look at what happened at Jacksonville State and you look at that 3-game road trip that we were on, I think most people would say if you come away with 2 wins in that 3-game road streak, even though it happened at Murray State and at Austin Peay, and then you lost at Jacksonville State, to me, you come away from a road swing winning 2 of those 3 games. I think most people would take that.
Yeah.
So what you got to do now is continue to do what we have been doing, which is take care of your business at home, and we didn't do that. So now we've got to go out on the road, and we've got to have the mindset the road doesn't matter. None of that matters. We've got to go out and execute and take care of business.
They often say that toughness travels, defense travels.
There's no question about it. I mean, there's going to be times when your offense fluctuates. I mean, you're going to have some times where guys, their shots are not falling. They're not finishing at the rim. But if you have your defense and you do the things necessary in order for you to be a good defensive team, which is on the offense, take care of the basketball and don't take bad shots, and then rebound the basketball, then you're always going to have a chance to win a game.
Specifically against the Cougars Thursday, what has to go right for you to get this win?
Well, to me, the first thing is we have to guard them without fouling. I mean, you look at their statistics, and it's mind-boggling. They're second in the nation in free throw attempts. So we can't send them to the free throw line. The second thing is we've got to defend without fouling. Sometimes you can not foul, but then you're not defending.
Right.
So we've got to defend without fouling. And then for us, the next thing is we have to rebound the basketball, because sometimes that's their best offense, is getting it off the glass and having an opportunity to get an offensive rebound and score. And a lot of times, a lot of your fouls against that team, against SIUE, occur because you didn't get the defensive rebound. They get the offensive rebound, and then you foul them.
Real quick, I wanted to touch on Jalen Benton missed the last 2 games. It was violation of team rules, but he's back and ready to go Thursday, right?
Yes, sir, he will be.
All right, and with him out, your bench was a little shorter, and Eli Sample, I thought, gave you some good minutes the other night against Morehead State, including a bucket.
Yeah, I tell you what, Eli Sample, being a walk-on, a non-scholarship guy in any sport is the hardest thing to do. Because you do everything that everybody else does. You go through the weight training, you go through the conditioning, you go through the daily grind of practice, and you're not on scholarship, so you don't get that reward, and you usually don't play. And so when I talk to people about coming and being a non-scholarship walk-on for us, you got to paint a grim picture, and we want to be honest. I said, hey, if you're fine with spending 2 or 4 years here at the university and playing for us, and never being on scholarship and never playing, then let's make a deal. But you've got to be comfortable with those 2 things. And I know everybody thinks, hey, I'll play good enough to end up being on scholarship. I'll play good enough in practice and show you that I should get playing time. But for the most part, that's what walk-ons and non-scholarship guys do. They go through 2 or 4 seasons and they never get on scholarship and they never play. And you still have to do everything that everybody else does and not get that reward. It's a really difficult thing to do and have that mindset. But when your opportunity comes, being prepared for it. Are you over there pouting and not knowing the game plan? Are you over pouting and not knowing what the set play is because you never get a chance to play? And then when your opportunity comes, you fall on your face. And Eli's done a great job of being prepared all the time. So when his opportunity does happen to come, he can go out there and be successful.
And there's a guy that just absolutely works his tail off in the weight room. You can physically see it. I mean, there's a guy dedicated to the weight room.
Well, he wants to be a workout guy. He wants to be a strength and conditioning coach. He wants to work guys out when he gets done playing basketball. So you have to look the part in order to do that. And he definitely, he comes in the gym probably more than anybody on our team to get shots up and get additional work.
All right, good to see him have some success the other day. Coach, we'll see you at Edwardsville at the Vidala Bean Center on Thursday. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's Coach Rick Ray, and that will do it here for the Coaches Show. We're back in the Jackson location next week. Redhawks women will be hosting SIU Edwardsville at 6:30 on Wednesday, so make sure you come out and support the Red Hawk women. We've got Russillo and Cannell next on ESPN Radio. So long, everybody, from the Coaches Show at Wings, etc.
Southeast Missouri's ESPN Radio Sports Network, 92.9 KLSC Holden, 1220 KGIR, Cape Girardeau.